I wondered if you could start by explaining some of the disruptive trends and technologies that are coming our way and how they might impact businesses in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. So, the key shift which continues to impact businesses most aggressively is the transition to mobile. So, as we were just talking about in the conference, 12% of engagement on digital previously and in the 2010 timeframe was mobile. That's now increased to over 50%, and the expectation is that will be up to 75% by 2020. And so what you're seeing is this mobile enablement of consumer and enterprise services at a path that's accelerating beyond what I think businesses anticipated. And that is creating a world where customers are expecting to be able to get access to services in their pocket 24/7 in real time, and that is a key dynamic that enterprises and businesses need to adapt to.
And so what are some examples of companies creating these new personalised services for consumers?
Yeah, so if you look across different categories of services, there are some great examples that have come out of the States, many of which are available here in New Zealand. So in the transportation space, Uber is a great example. Lyft is another service in the transportation space as well. In the United States, you actually see both Uber and Lyft going beyond the individual transportation scenario and beginning to address mass transportation. So really thinking about themselves as transportation platforms that could potentially disrupt public transportation over time. So you think about scenarios where Uber knows that there are 10 people in a specific neighbourhood who all take transport at a similar time of day and go to a similar place. Being able to notify them and say, would you like to be part of a carpool? It would be a massively reduced cost, and then they're able to take that transport together to a new place. So they've created a service called Uber Pool that they're testing to do this, where you effectively say, I'm in a certain location, I want to go to somewhere else. Uber uses machine learning and their predictive algorithms to understand and triangulate against other people who are doing a similar trip, and then effectively will pick up a number of users and drop passengers and drop them off at the other end. And so when you think about what that could do to bus services, train services, it's really utilising that mobile enablement to just disrupt entire industries.
You talked about companies needing to grow or die, disrupt or be disrupted.
Yeah.
And you had some great lessons from your work in Silicon Valley. Maybe you could talk a bit about them.
Yeah, so it's one of the things that I like to say, there is no peacetime in the consumer internet. It's always wartime, so you can never rest on your laurels. No matter how great your service is, you always need to think about what's the next shift that's going to happen, what's the next platform development, what are the secular trends that you're seeing in your customers that you need to be in front of and think about really addressing. And you see companies that have done this very well. So Google's a great example of a company that has navigated the shift from a PC-based web world to mobile extremely effectively. There are companies that have done much less well than that, and one of the examples I think is just always resonates with me is Nokia. Nokia had over 50% share of the mobile handset market globally in 2004, and at the time Nokia was just the interface that everybody was familiar with. By 2013, when Microsoft bought them, they were less than 13%. And their CEO at the press announcement, and he actually cried during the press announcement when he said this, was, it wasn't that we did anything wrong, but we lost anyway. And to me, that's just really resonated, because what it demonstrates is that concept of you can never rest on your laurels. You always have to be thinking about who is going to disrupt me and how do I think about how I have to change my business to continue to be relevant to consumers.
So where do you start when you're thinking about that and how to, where you invest for the future?
Yeah. So for me, and this is my sort of strategy orientation, I think you always have to start with understanding what it is you are solving for as a company. What's your core purpose and vision? How do you think about what it is that you're seeking to be to the consumer? And when you look at the most successful companies, they have a very strong sense of this. Google considers its mission to help organize the world's information to make it accessible for users. LinkedIn considers its mission to help professionals be more productive and effective. Facebook wants to connect the world. These are very grand statements, but what they enable those companies to do is really think about, what is the breadth of things that I'm willing to do, but then critically, and this is really the trick of effective strategy, what am I not willing to do? Because a successful company will often have materially more options available to it than it can successfully execute on.
Fantastic. Well, any final advice for companies that think that they can ride this out and survive anyway?
I come back to that Nokia statement, we did nothing wrong but we lost. Doing nothing wrong can also mean doing nothing right. While the world changes around you and consumer behaviours are influenced by your competitors and influenced by the secular trends of technology adoption, doing nothing will mean that you conceivably become irrelevant to those consumers. And so, the strongest companies are the ones that cannibalize themselves, that actually think about, really ensuring they're able to get a great return from their core business, but are equally willing to invest in and develop new businesses that leverage those core expertise.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.